This message is brought to you by Apple Card. Shave ice by the beach. A trip to the state fair. And a throwback flick at the local drive-in. They're more than just items to check off the summer bucket list. They're also opportunities to earn 2% daily cash back when you use your Apple Card with Apple Pay. Apply for Apple Card now and use in minutes with Apple Pay. Subject to credit approval. Apple Card is issued by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, Salt Lake City branch. Terms and more at applecard.com.
This episode is brought to you by Google Chrome. You think you know a browser, but Gemini and Chrome? That's new. It can help you with practically anything on the web, like restoring a vintage motorcycle from a 50-page restoration blog, or finally break down that long article you've had open for weeks. Gemini and Chrome is here for it. Ready to make anything online make sense? There's no place like Chrome. Check responses, setup required, compatibility and availability varies, 18+.
Because it is the best thing going.
And welcome back to the Boundary Corner podcast, along with my partners Brian Siegler and Jonathan Talley and Sheldon Moss. I'm Curtis Wilson. And as always, we are brought to you by Moments on the Maury, looking for a weekend getaway, but still trying to make it to Blacksburg for the game. Then Moments on the Maury might be exactly what you are looking for. Owned by a proud Hokie, who I forgot to text that we were live tonight. Sorry, Phil. Located just outside Lexington, Virginia, just a little over hour drive from Blacksburg. The place gives you everything you could think in a mountain getaway: fishing, kayaking, relaxing by or in the river, right out the back door with a cold one. So check out the QR code in the upper left-hand corner or visit them on their Instagram page at Moments on the Maury. And tonight we are back to preview panel number 2, and we are joined by two of our favorites. We got first, it's been a long time since we've seen him. He disappeared for like 18 months on us after regularly showing up all the time. Currently college football writer for Last Word on Sports, and as always, the host of the Hokie Hangover, Mike McDaniel, and managing editor. He's been here like 4 times in the last year. I feel like he's just like the constant guest star. Managing editor of Tech Sideline, David Cunningham. Mike, it has been a while. How you been, man?
Thanks for having me. You guys are spacing the floor a little bit this year, which I do appreciate. As a parent of a toddler trying to get him to bed, I don't need to sit in the green room. We were just talking about this beforehand. Sit in the green room for 30 to 45 extra minutes. So thank you for spacing us out. Honored to be here with you guys and with David once again. So here we are.
Always a pleasure to have Mike on. And we were talking before we got on here. We're nothing if we're not a little more long-winded than I think we plan on being. So we always appreciate the patience of those that aren't leading this thing off. But since we're breaking it up a little bit, glad to get you on. It was 8.5 minutes from you showing up to when we went live. So that's a little bit of a smaller buffer for you there.
It was good. It was good. I was just glad we were able to catch up for a few minutes before we hit record, though. So it was solid.
That's right. Yeah.
100%.
Always good to catch up with Mike.
And introducing, I don't know if he was the captain or the co-captain of the Blacksburg Softball Intramural Champions, David Cunningham. I mean, by the way, playing in the middle of summer, you had to lose like 8 or 9 pounds a game in water.
You guys will understand this. We to win the championship, we had to. This was a couple Tuesdays ago. We had to win. It was double elimination. We had to win 3 straight games. We won 3 straight games. Played 21 innings. I have never been that sore the next day. Never been that sore. But what worth it? We won. We played at Tom's Creek Field on the other side of 460, and then we went to PK's after the game to celebrate. So it was a great time. Appreciate you guys having me on as always. And you mentioned the Maury River. I was up in Lexington 2 weeks ago and went down the Maury River, hung out. It was a great time. Can't recommend it enough.
By the way, then you probably went right by my friend's, our sponsor's house, like literally right by. He used to keep I think he has a Hokie sign or Hokie flag on their little pavilion down by the river.
Yeah, it's like they also have it's like a 2-tier deck too. On the back.
It's a great place. I mean, we got to visit there last summer. It's a great place. And when Phil has extra beers, he always is claiming he's going to pull we're going to do when we're good, we're going to pull a state of the program episode there. Hold on to your hats for that.
That might be dangerous.
He knows it's going to be dangerous, just straight up. By the way, David, you talk about being sore. So one of my neighbors, his brother-in-law, owns an architect or engineering firm here, and they have a league. I played one Thursday night. Pretty sure I couldn't walk right for 3 days. The other guys on my street that came, we had 1 pulled groin, we had 2 pulled quads, and my neighbor pulled his back as well.
It's a dangerous sport, man.
It is a super dangerous sport.
It gets more dangerous when you're over 30 and even more so when you're over 40. So
damn right.
And even more so when you're overweight. Yeah. Throw that one in there for me.
Throw that one in there.
Well, Tally, we never knew. We always wondered that the lot of David Cunningham, always beautiful. We finally figured out David Cunningham's secret is Jonathan Tally. Do you fly up bi-weekly to style him up?
Man, we've got so good. He just calls me and, kind of stands in the mirror and asks me what I think. But a lot of times it's the hair. Like I have to give him, because if y'all haven't noticed, David's in front of the camera a lot, man. He's asking these questions and he has to have good hair. So he calls me and asks me about the hair a lot. I tell him, yeah, no, comb it the other way, put a hat on today, whatever. So
Tally dropping lore mid-podcast. I love it.
Yeah, man. I just, he got his Tampa Bay stuff on today. He didn't call me today before the show. He has his Tampa Bay Rays stuff on. I didn't approve that, but sometimes you just gotta let the client, do what he do. The talent is the talent, man. You just let them do what they want sometimes.
All I'm thinking about is the Tim Tebow, Marcus Spears, Paul Feinbaum, SEC Network. Yeah. That's all I'm thinking about. Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, it is awesome to have y'all tonight. Can't wait. We're going to start up here, obviously hidden topics all about fall camp positions and multiple other things. But we're going to start a little bit off the field because just a week ago now, can't remember, August 5th. So 2 weeks ago, we didn't talk about it last week because I wanted to wait for y'all to because of what y'all do within the sport of college football. But PJ Mullen hired from Rutgers. Is the new chief marketing officer, deputy athletics director at Virginia Tech. Has some back ties to Franklin. David, you kind of wrote a kind of long form article on it, and I know Mike, you're pretty close to just the business in general. So I'm gonna let David lead off here. I mean, what does this tell you about what's going on inside the Merriman walls with this hire?
It's one of Brian White's big first couple hires. He's hired 3 or 4 or 5 key people now that are going to be on his leadership team. PJ Mullen is one of them. He's kind of split up some responsibilities with Ryan Gottlieb, who was previously at Florida Atlantic at Colorado, working with Deion Sanders before that. I think what stands out about Mullen's resume is he's a Penn State grad, so he's got that background, and he worked with James Franklin. There's a lot of familiarity with there, but he spent the last couple years at Rutgers where he kind of revolutionized their game day atmosphere and everything they did, like on the ground, the day-to-day stuff. Like when fans arrive at the stadium, like he made it very new and very friendly, and like that is the kind of buy-in you need when you're trying to turn the program around. Like you got a great coach at the helm, obviously, you got a new AD coming in, but you still got to sell the fans, and you still got to make the fans want to enjoy themselves in the stadium and around, you know, whether it's campus or down Beamer Way and whatnot. So I think he's going to do a really good job of kind of bringing a new style, a new thought process to just kind of how Virginia Tech approaches like a game day for football or basketball in Castle Coliseum. Because when he was at Penn State, he was kind of like the guy in charge of Beaver Stadium on a game day and what it looks like in terms of marketing and fan engagement and stuff. So he's got a pretty good mind. Obviously, the connection with Franklin really helps, but just another one of Brian White's big time hires where you go, okay, this athletic department is trending in the right direction. These guys know how to generate money, and they know how to manage a business in college athletics where, you know, you've got to worry about the sports, but at the same time, you've also got to make money. Like that's what it is nowadays.
The more ways you can generate money in this era, the better. And I think what this hire indicates to me, just like outside looking in at it, because I haven't been as close to it as David has been, but like outside looking in at it, it's like they're leaving no stone unturned, right? Like everything's important. It's not just, okay, we have to turn over leadership in the Hokie club and, you know, bring in Brad Bell, somebody who's got, you know, the fundraising experience. No, it's not just that. It's the game day atmosphere needs to be looked at. You know, how do we keep, obviously a winning product will help, but like, how do we keep the students in the stadium in the second half? Like that has been an issue. And obviously I think the product hasn't helped. But like those are the types of things they want to tackle when they're bringing in big time recruits, like the types of recruits that Virginia Tech hasn't really been able to land in a very, very long time. And we're trying to seal the deal on an official visit to Blacksburg. Like all this stuff matters, right? So like the experience with Franklin helps a lot. That's obviously a common thread with a lot of what we've seen so far from the hires in the athletic department, the hires obviously on the coaching staff, the players that have come in as transfers. Like there's a lot of familiarity, right, between Franklin and the people he is surrounding himself with. And it's obvious that he's working hand in hand with Brian White, the new athletic director, to make sure that, you know, the folks that they're bringing into key leadership positions within the athletic department that are going to play a key role with the football program in particular are guys that Franklin's on board with. Franklin's the most important guy in the athletic department right now, I think, for obvious reasons.
I would add this in a lot of what fans they see but don't necessarily understand is the behind what goes into the behind the scenes stuff in terms of the people putting together stuff on game day and, you know, setting up Hokie Village and making sure that you enjoy your trip to Lane Stadium or Thompson Field or Castle Coliseum. And what Virginia Tech is doing, I think that probably should have been done a long time ago is, and you've heard us at Tech Sideline talk about this for a long time. My understanding is that where Brad Worthman, you know, he basically served as Witt's number 2 and had all of this stuff on his plate. And for a while there, he was handling Hokie Club duties on top of everything else. They've got Brad Bell coming in doing Hokie Club stuff now, but they've also basically got Ryan Gottlieb and PJ Mullen splitting up Brad Worthman's old responsibilities as far as, you know, Ryan Gottlieb, who's got this business mind, he's going to handle a lot of the revenue stuff. And PJ Mullen's going to handle the marketing and the broadcasting and the communications aspect of it. And that's his background, the game day stuff. And I think it just is going to be much more efficient. Like that's what Virginia Tech has been missing. And it doesn't necessarily show up in the on-field product, but I think you'll notice a more efficient athletic department just when you're around the athletic environments, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think like when you talk about that, like the thing that stood out about Franklin in general and kind of the way the AD hires went and some of these other hires is like the attention to detail, and you can have a lot more attention to detail when you have people that are specializing in certain areas of the process and not just having one guy that's kind of that catch-all for all those different aspects of the marketing and the the game day experience and the Hokie Club. Like that's a lot for one person to really kind of take on. So having these more specialized roles and operating more like a corporation than a mom and pop shop definitely seems to be the way the Hokie athletic department is trending, and that's definitely a good thing and a long time coming.
This message is brought to you by Apple Card. Shave ice by the beach. A trip to the state fair. And a throwback flick at the local drive-in. They're more than just items to check off the summer bucket list. They're also opportunities to earn 2% daily cash back when you use your Apple Card with Apple Pay. Apply for Apple Card now and use in minutes with Apple Pay. Subject to credit approval. Apple Card is issued by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, Salt Lake City branch. Terms and more at applecard.com.
This episode is brought to you by Google Chrome. You think you know a browser, but Gemini and Chrome? That's new. It can help you with practically anything on the web, like restoring a vintage motorcycle from a 50-page restoration blog, or finally break down that long article you've had open for weeks. Gemini and Chrome is here for it. Ready to make anything online make sense? There's no place like Chrome. Check responses, setup required, compatibility and availability varies, 18+.
Just the final thing I want to add, this is what infusing money into a program gets you, right? It gets you not only like these roles are more magnified, but all these roles are specialized too, right? New roles open up and you can see the importance that are being put on them. And I just think that this doesn't happen without the added investment into the program, obviously, but it's just really important to note that.
That's facts. All facts, man. Brings us to another topic that talks about money being infused to a program. Apparel deal, we are officially on the chopping block. What I think it was like a 10-day buffer there that they had with us with the Nike deal. So I guess we're kind of looking at suitors, seeing what would be, best spot for Virginia Tech, and where we fit. Kuna, have you been looking at this stuff, man? What do you think about all of this?
Well, I thought Doug Bowman did a really good job of explaining it, just the legality and logistics of it all. Because Virginia Tech is a public school, it technically has to open up a bidding process for people to come and pitch. Hey, this is what we're offering. I think it was a 10-day. People can put in. Had 10 days to put in different bids and stuff. And then I think over the next, couple weeks, month or so, Virginia Tech will have people come to campus and field them. I think it's very early, but this is what I think is so important when you talk about Brian White as an athletic director that understands how important finances are and how you have to squeeze all of the juice out of the orange. Yeah. Like he said, he told us in July in Charlotte at the ACC kickoff that he and his staff were going to look at every single contract that Virginia Tech had. Yep. And this is one of them. This is obviously one that is very much talked about by fans. But Virginia Tech had gotten the shaft a little bit in this Nike contract for a very long time. Maybe you renegotiate with Nike. Maybe that is the end goal if you can get a better deal out of it. But there are a handful of schools that have switched to Adidas or other brands over the last handful of years. And if it's very similar, I think, to the sports property rights that Virginia Tech went through 2 years ago or 3 years ago with Playfly and Learfield. Virginia Tech had been with Learfield for forever, but Playfly was offering more money, a better deal. And at the end of the day, you have to do what is best for your athletic department that will make the most money. And if it's not Nike, if it's Adidas, if it's Under Armour, I think it's very early, But the bottom line is that, like, I think the fans will buy whatever it is. The bottom line is Virginia Tech has to be getting the most out of that contract. You can't leave money on the table, because if you look at what some of these schools like Tennessee and Penn State are getting from those contracts, it's enormous. Like, it is athletic department changing money. You have to get the most out of that.
So before I go to Mike and let Mike give us a little bit of his take on this, I was taking a look at it, David, and because I'm like you said, it doesn't matter who we with. I'm still gonna buy Virginia Tech stuff. If they can give me something orange, I'm gonna buy it. You know what I'm saying? Hey, right now I rock a lot of the SWVA stuff. I'm just saying they got big man clothes. They got the stuff that I like to wear. I got on one of the hats again. It's just comfortable. But I was talking to a couple of guys and they were just like, no, on Adidas. Adidas is horrible. And I'm like how? If you go look at the deals and you just mentioned like Penn State and you mentioned Tennessee, I think Adidas was giving them like $300 million or something crazy like that compared to a team like South Carolina with Nike getting $70 million. You know, that's a big discrepancy. That's a big deal if a apparel brand is going to, you know, lock you into a, you know, 1 or 2 tier team, and then the other one's going to lock you into a 4 or 5 tier team. And then, you know, when we were talking about that, some people were saying, well, why would you think that they would view Virginia Tech as a 4 or 5 tier team? Well, that's what they've been viewing us as. If you go look at our deal now, it could have just been if you're going to take that, that's what we're going to give you. You know, it could have been that. And with us going with some new regimen, you know, new AD and actually, like you said, looking at all of the contracts, some people are going to squeeze as much as they can to get as much as we can. But you also have to look at the brand and see what it is and be like, Adidas may value you more. You know, Under Armour may value you more. So I'm glad that they are, you know, taking a look at all that stuff. And I'm totally okay, especially Adidas. Some of the other ones I'd have to be kind of won over, but like I'm all on board if we win Adidas. But Mike, I know you had something to add. You can go ahead.
There's just no better time for this contract to come up than right at this very moment is literally the only other thing I have to add. Like this, with the way the arrow is trending with the program and everything, I mean, there hasn't been a snap yet. And I mean, look at the AP poll this week. Tech's receiving votes. This team won 3 games last year. I mean, this is outrageous, right? And I know they we're getting a roster here in a minute, but like, the arrow's pointing up, and this is a great time for the apparel deal to come up, and they have the right people in charge, I think, to be making these types of big picture decisions.
Well, it's leverage, right? They've got the ultimate leverage. You got the big name head coach. You're hot right now everywhere. You're hot on the trail. You're hot in the media. Everyone wants it. And then it shows there's an adult running the athletics department now, and it's not just, we're just going to keep pushing Nike down the road for the next few years. And you're like, why? Like Tally said, you're viewing us as a tier 4 or tier 5. Does Adidas or Under Armour, to y'all's all points, does it make sense? Does it make sense? And you know what? You're a tier 2 at Adidas. Here's $200 million over the next 8 years. And you're like, okay, that's great. Let's do this.
Yeah, and I feel like this is where like some of Witt's risk aversion was a negative, because you see the situation where it's like, well, you know, you're in this tier with Nike, but you know, I know the program has not been great, obviously over the last decade or so. So your brand isn't where it wants to be. Was the risk aversion like, is what we're getting from Nike going to be the best we're going to get? Should we just keep taking this and keep it moving? Versus putting something out there. But Mike, to your point, like you've got all the buzz right now, and you haven't had a chance to go out on the field and fuck it up yet. So
exactly.
Let's go.
Time for this happen.
Yeah.
Hey, David, will you say what you just put in the chat?
Yeah, I was looking it up while you guys were all making really good points. I was looking it up just to confirm. Tech was making about $2 million a year from its Nike contract. That's about 2. Penn State was on with Nike for 33 years, just flipped to flipped to Adidas, sorry. And it has a 10-year, $300 million contract. You do the math on that. Like,
It's a lot of money.
That's a big difference. That's a big discrepancy.
And again,
not everybody like Tennessee's making. I think Tennessee's contract is valued around somewhere between $100 and $200 million. But like, you can do better. Like, you can do better. There are better options out there. And even if it is with Nike, you gotta bring them in and say we are better than this, right? I think Virginia Tech is kind of like, this is something that it's like, oh, we're kind of content with this for a while. It's like Brian, I can tell you this: Brian White and James Franklin are not going to be content with this.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, and you talk about leaving money on the table. I mean, the discrepancy in those numbers is like an entire year's worth of NIL.
Truth.
Every single year in what you're dealing with there. So it's like, why would you leave that money on the table? So yeah, got to strike while you got an opportunity here, and like I said, milk as much as you can out of this thing.
This is also another way. This is just another way to kind of make up ground on a mediocre TV contract. Also, so
yeah.
And so this to go with somebody who's kind of lateral. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's been better than us, but I'm just saying most people kind of view someone like Louisville. Louisville is kind of a lateral team, right? So their Adidas deal is 10-year, $160 million.
We could easily chip that.
10-year, $160 million. So I'm just saying, man.
Let's go, Adidas.
We gotta go.
Let's just go.
Yeah, I ain't saying we gotta go Adidas, but I'm just saying.
If we could get to at least 200, that'd be nice. A $200 million deal would over 10 years would be
crazy.
That would be much.
That's $20 million.
That was
a year,
signed
man.
in 2018.
2018,
and that was in 2018.
That was effective 2018. It's through 27, 28. So they got 2 years left in it.
Oh yeah, they'll come
But
out
like,
on the other side of that too.
Yeah,
like that is, if it's something like Under Armour, like I know Maryland was with Under Armour for a really long time. Like you could be one of the top schools with some of these other brands or with Nike. I think it's like something like almost 50 of the 68 Power 4 teams have Nike. It's like you're not Alabama and LSU and Georgia up there, man. But like you go to Adidas or Under Armour, you might be able to get better bang for your buck and be like one of the premier programs they have.
right.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, you want to talk some camp here? We're a couple weeks in. We got some bumps and bruises going on. Some players are banged up. We found out that Gabe Williams is injured. Probably talked a little bit about that. Some other guys are on the shelf a little bit. Any concerns right now, guys that might be out that concern you? Obviously, we can start with David just because he's been obviously covering the team. But anyone banged up right now that is of concern to you?
I think the big one was Johnny Garrett on the offensive line. We found out at the beginning of camp. Obviously, Gabe Williams, that really stinks. It seems like he's after his injury and everything that happened with his family, and then he's making his way back, and then it seems like he's gotten injured again. That really stinks because I thought he might have a chance to help Tech at outside linebacker. But I think the big one might be Johnny Garrett. It's a long-term injury. They're not sure how long-term. He's a guy who started for the Hokies at offensive tackle. I'm not sure that he would this year, given that you have Justin Terry and Logan Howland coming into the program, but he's a guy with experience, and they're not sure if he's out for the season yet. I think they would hope to get him back later in the year, but it would really stink because of the rule change. This is his last year of eligibility, period. This is his 5th season. So if he can't play, he's done, which would really, really stink. He's a guy with experience, but I think outside of that, the Hokies have stayed pretty healthy. Like they are, knock on wood, so far they're a couple weeks out from VMI, less than 3 weeks away, and they're pretty clean. So I think those are the two that come to mind, but nothing like we talk about a guy like we're going to talk about quarterbacks and some of these other positions here. They've got a lot of guys that they feel good about that are healthy right now at those spots.
The Johnny Garrett one is obviously the most concerning one to me, just because I feel like this entire season is built on whether or not the offensive line improves. Because I feel like we've seen, we'll get into quarterbacks in a minute, so I don't want to spoil all this, but we've seen enough out of Grunkemeyer at Penn State where I think even that level of play would be an obvious upgrade over what Virginia Tech's fielded in the quarterback room the last few seasons. So it's a matter of protecting him, right? Feel good about the running back room. Feel relatively okay about the receiving core. I know there's a couple guys that Tech feels good about. Depth, Tech's got it, but it's all unproven depth. It's really all about the offensive line. Johnny Garrett, Dave brought up a good point. Maybe he doesn't start at tackle, but he's a swing guy, right? He could play tackle, he could kick inside to guard. You can move him all around the offensive line. It's just one less guy, one less answer to the question, So I think not having him is pretty significant. A guy who's played a lot of snaps, and not having him for a significant period of time at the very least is not great. But also, if this is going to be your only major injury, knock on wood, okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see. You have some answer. You think you have some answers with guys you brought in the portal anyway, right? Especially a tackle. You've kind of attacked that hard with your roster building. So while I don't love that there's an injury on the offensive line that we all got questions about, if that's the only injury, okay.
Yeah. The other one to mention is Emmett Laws, I think. Because that was something that happened in the spring, and I completely blanked because it's just kind of been he's going to be out. That one hurts, but that's something that we've kind of known about for a long time. I think I mentioned it last time I was on here in the spring. Him and Samuel Okunlula at defensive end. He's one I'm kind of puzzled about because he's a guy. He's probably Tech's most experienced defensive end, but he hasn't been healthy since he arrived and wasn't healthy really at Colorado last year. So he's one I'd keep an eye on. Maybe he can kind of work his way in. The Emmett Laws thing, it seems like a pretty serious long-term deal, and that one hurts because it's on the defensive tackle room, the interior of the line.
We go back to Gabe.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Curtis.
I was going to say, go back to Gabe. That feels like the one that you're getting more stuff about, because you mentioned Price said it. I wish we had one more guy. When he said that triggered me because we didn't hit that room as heavy in the portal. We only brought Keon Wiley was the only guy that came in, if I'm not mistaken. I have to look at my list here. But that was it.
We moved some guys into the we've been moving people around. You had going in at Sam. Still listed as safety, but in the 2 deep at Sam in fall camp. So until that room gets healthy, it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. But David and Mike, you both made good points. The trenches is certainly where we have to be the best version of ourselves. So any injuries along there, whether it's Laws, kind of the known quantity, or the injury to Johnny Garrett. Mike made a good point with, even if he wasn't going to be the guy up front, they tried him at guard a little bit in spring practice. He's a guy that could at least, be the first guy off the bench, even if he's not in the, the best 5 group there, especially with that experience. That's the type of guy you would want to have in that type of position. So definitely a concern, but I think, from a roster building perspective, when James Franklin got here, he identified tackle as a big concern area, and he's done as much as he could addressing that, whether it's, getting a couple guys in the portal, what we've done both to wrap up the previous class and then obviously what we're doing in this class. I think that's going to be less of a concern down the road, but most of those guys on the roster past those 2 that came through in the portal are either guys that haven't seen a lot of time at Virginia Tech or are guys that are, kind of fresh out of high school. So that's kind of a little bit of a concern. But we at least have bodies in the tackle room, which we were completely absent of that last year. So that's at least a marginal improvement on that front. I'm gonna shift gears a little bit here because we talked about camp from a player perspective, and David, you may have seen more, but Mike, maybe what you've read and seen elsewhere. What have you seen from some of these new coaches, like outside of Franklin, that's kind of caught your eye at this point in fall camp?
It's more of what the other coaches are saying about him. Like, everybody's talking about how humble Ty Howell is. I think that's a really good sign, right? We haven't seen him call a single play yet, but when all the coaches are talking about how open he is to feedback and how humble he is in this new role, and it's the biggest role he's had in his college coaching career, I think that's obviously a good sign. Norval McKenzie, feels like Franklin's really happy with him, and he was one of those recruiters coming in from Georgia Tech where I talked to a Georgia Tech guy who said one of his shortcomings at Georgia Tech, and the reason why Georgia Tech wasn't like really upset to see him go, was that he was really struggling recruiting the Atlanta area. And what does Franklin do? He brings him in and he's like, no, he's going to recruit just fine. And he's brought in a lot of good players, and he's seems to have done well. The running back room, I think we all feel really good about. But I also, like, we probably would have felt just fine about it no matter who was coaching there, considering the talent that's in the room. So that's kind of a wait and see. But if, there's one coach that's kind of flying under the radar for me, that I think the fan base should pay a little bit more attention to, I think it is McKenzie, just because of how Georgia Tech fans seem to feel about this, and how Virginia Tech fans, I guess, are feeling about him now that they've seen him kind of go out there and recruit.
Yeah, I think not to just piggyback off of what Mike said, but I've really been impressed with McKenzie. Going out there at practice, he is I would say the most intense coach out there that's not named James Franklin, Norval McKenzie. He pushes his running backs really, really hard. And I mean, he's the assistant head coach for a reason. He's basically Franklin's number 2 coach, like in terms of the way they're listed on the website and whatnot. Like, and I think that is for a reason. I think of all of the coaches on this roster, or that you would say, like, who has the potential to be that next head coach from James Franklin's staff, it's probably McKenzie. Probably not the defensive coordinator, I can tell you that much. But McKenzie, I think, just he's so intense, and you can tell he's getting the most out of his guys, and I think that's very important.
Well, it's pretty crazy. I'll talk about his recruiting, because lead guy on Junior Saunders, he recruited Bryce Woods, because that was kind of the one that came out of nowhere back in the summer, early summer, and then Buchanan. So he's come here and recruited 4-star guys right out of the gate. Like, so I like what Phil said.
Yeah, I threw it up there earlier. Yeah.
That one right there. Georgia Tech. You don't like recruiting because you're a really tough school.
So you're also recruiting against Georgia for a lot of this talent.
Yeah, a ton of the talent.
At the same time, your school is a lot harder to get into. Some of those, Atlanta kids don't necessarily want to stay in Atlanta. 100%. So I mean, there's a lot working against you from that perspective. But it seems to be doing well at Virginia Tech, and that's all that matters right now for us.
Yep. That is all that matters right now. Well, let's flip over. Let's keep talking more ball. Let's talk about the quarterback room for a second. Obviously, led by Danny O'Brien. And right now, I think it is safe to assume Ethan is going to be the starting quarterback. Does anybody disagree at this moment in time? Ethan Grunkenmeyer is going to be this. And I know James Franklin, it's like, well, I got to and do it, and he's not going to probably announce it for another week. Week, right? Because they'll do a mock game. They'll do a mock week next week, right, guys?
Probably, yeah.
Labor Day is so late; it screwed me up this year. Because it's like
it is late.
It's so late. It's like, wait a second. So it's got to be next week. They'll do the mock week and the whole game.
Yeah, this is that year where Memorial Day is as early as it can get, and Labor Day is as late as it can get.
So late. It's going to be in school 2 full weeks. Crazy. But we're assuming that. When y'all look back, and I want kind of everybody to hit this one, if you can remember back. But when y'all looked back, I'll throw this one to Mike, where he was the primary QB. That was the Iowa game all the way through the Clemson game. What game jumped out at you? Like, what game were you watching, or maybe look back at the tape and said, man, that's our quarterback now?
Indiana. It's the Indiana game. I think everybody's latching on to how well he played down the stretch, like the 4 wins when the schedule lightened up. But to have Indiana, of course, Indiana goes on to win the national championship. It ages well. But to have that team with that defense on the ropes like he did, he didn't throw for 400 yards, but he completed, 22 of his 31 attempts in that game. Touchdown, a pick, was not scared at the moment against a really, really good defense. I mean, Indiana basically won that game at the buzzer, right? It took a ridiculous throw and catch. Yeah, I mean, one of the best catches of the year, one of the best throws of the year. It literally took that, right, for Indiana to beat a Penn State team that fired its coach, was down a quarterback, a total mess. Nobody gave him a prayer in that game. They were, 3 or 4 score dogs. I mean, they were huge underdog in that game. And it legitimately looked like Indiana was going to lose that game for a long time. A big reason why, because of how well Ethan Ruckmeyer played. So it's the Indiana game for me. And of course he played better as the year went on, and as competition got a little lighter and he got his feet under him, got more snaps, all that good stuff. But like, to go up against a defense like that, play the way they did, that's one that stands out to me.
Dave?
Yeah, I think it is in the end game. If you look at QBR, his QBR was 81. Fernando Mendoza's QBR in that game was 79.9. He had a higher QBR than the guy who went number 1 to the Raiders. And
won the Heisman. I mean,
it took a Heisman moment for him to kind of win that game for Indiana. But between that game, and I thought Grunkemeyer really did a good job at the end of the year in that Pinstripe Bowl against Clemson. He was 23 for 34 for 260 and 2 touchdowns. I think you saw him really come into his own, and he's got the same quarterbacks coach in Danny O'Brien, very cerebral guy coming over from Penn State. I think that continuity will help, but you saw him kind of develop and gain confidence as the year went on. And I thought you saw it tick a little bit with that Indiana game against a really good defense. I mean, if you look at he gets thrown to the fire against Iowa, and then Iowa, and then at Ohio State. Yeah,
brutal.
And then he has to go play Indiana at home, but we're talking about the team that won the national championship. It lightened up a little bit towards the end of the year, and I thought he got better and improved, and I think you will see him kind of build on that at the start of this year. It's going to be Grunkemeyer, and it's kind of just a matter of time. As James Franklin says, a lot of times the players know who the starter is going to be. I think the players probably know that it's going to be Grunkemeyer. He's the guy with experience. But you talk about the quarterbacks, and my biggest question is who's the number 2 guy behind him? Because you've got a guy with a little bit of experience that's played pretty well. He's still young, though. What happens if you need somebody to back him up? And that competition is really going to intrigue people.
This message is brought to you by Apple Card. Shave ice by the beach. A trip to the state fair. And a throwback flick at the local drive-in. They're more than just items to check off the summer bucket list. They're also opportunities to earn 2% daily cash back when you use your Apple Card with Apple Pay. Apply for Apple Card now and use in-minutes with Apple Pay. Subject to credit approval. Apple Card is issued by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, Salt Lake City branch. Terms and more at applecard.com.
This episode is brought to you by Google Chrome. You think you know a browser, but Gemini and Chrome? That's new. It can help you with practically anything on the web, like restoring a vintage motorcycle from a 50-page restoration blog, or finally break down that long article you've had open for weeks. Gemini and Chrome is here for it. Ready to make anything online make sense? There's no place like Chrome. Check responses, setup required, compatibility and availability varies, 18+.
Just David, just because you brought up the quarterback's coach and we're talking about quarterback play, this isn't on the rundown or anything. I just want to ask a question because I'm dumb and I'm on here with a couple of smart people. I've seen a lot of hate for James Franklin and O'Brien for their quarterback coaching, and all I've heard is that they ruined Drew Aller, right? So I went and did a little bit of research myself just to take a look at some stats. And then again, these certain people said stats don't matter. They said that Drew Aller was ruined as a quarterback at Penn State, right? Well, I looked at his stats from 2023. No, excuse me. Looked at his stats from 2024. No, excuse me, 2023. And he threw for 26-31. So almost, 2,600 yards, 25 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He also rushed for 210 yards that year. The next year, which was their playoff year, he threw for 3,300 yards, 24 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and he rushed for 302 yards. The next year is when he got hurt. He had 1,100 yards before he got hurt, 8 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. How is he ruined? I mean, maybe I don't understand what I'm looking at. I'm just trying to figure out what was ruined. What did they do to him?
He's ruined because they couldn't beat Ohio State. That's why.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why he's ruined.
He wasn't a Heisman hopeful and could beat Ohio State. And
I mean,
the other top
all
tier.
I keep seeing is how when he got drafted, they said that we had to reteach him everything. I was like, they do that to every quarterback. They may not say that, but like, I'm a Tennessee Titans fan, right?
They should have down Cam Ward.
They did the same thing with Cam Ward. He doesn't look anything like he looked in college. Like, some coaches may just not say that. But I'm trying to figure out if I'm dumb or if they're dumb. I think they're dumb. But
also,
I'm just thinking
the pace of play and style of the NFL is different than the college game, even when the schemes are similar. So you got to understand that there's going to be a breakdown and build back up of those mechanics for every quarterback that's going in the draft.
I don't think we've had a quarterback throw for 2,000 yards since like 2016. 2018, maybe.
I mean, so we're talking about Danny O'Brien, and he's the big reason why the Hokies have Bryce Baker in the fold, because they're both from the Kernersville area in North Carolina and went to the same high school, had the same high school coach. That's part of the reason why Bryce Baker is here playing under Danny O'Brien. But Danny O'Brien played at Maryland, like in college, played against Virginia Tech. And when he was at Penn State, like Drew Aller was an honorable mention, all Big Ten pick. It's Penn State fans being Penn State fans. And I think –
I feel better now.
Tally, what I would say is this. I think if you go back and look at that playoff year for Penn State, one of the weakest spots of that offense was the wide receiver room. I believe it was one of those games in the playoff that they didn't have a receiver catch more than like one pass. I think they had a pretty good quarterback in Drew Aller. They obviously relied heavily on their running backs and Tyler Warren at tight end. But you could say they maybe didn't stretch the field as much because their receivers weren't maybe as good. I think the Hokies have a really good quarterback in Grunkemeyer, and like Danny O'Brien's kind of his guy. And I don't think there's a ton to worry about, especially because Ty Howell, James Franklin, Danny O'Brien, like those three guys are all on the same wavelength. Like they're doing exactly how James Franklin wants to do it. And a lot of the time, Tally, it's Penn State fans being Penn State fans. They're criticizing to criticize. Seems like James Franklin's still living in their head rent free a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of figured that. I just want to hear somebody else say it.
He needed affirmation.
Gotta have the affirmation.
Somebody tell me that I ain't this stupid. I'm gonna say this real quick, Brian. If you want to move to the next or put whatever game, I'm gonna tell y'all the game that I went back and looked at, and Grunk's like there's something there. The Rutgers game, 4 bowl eligibility on the road. and it's a shootout. Even though they're running the ball like crazy, he's like super efficient that game, like 85%. I think 15 to 21, something insane passing. But it's the last drive of that game. He makes 3 first down throws, 1 on 4th down. Rutgers never gets the ball back. That's ice in your veins because it's like it was 4th and 2. It was like inside the 10. They're not going to kick the field goal because the thought process is this has been a shootout. If we kick a field goal here, they'll have a minute. Screw this. We're going for it. He throws a 3-yard pass. He gets them a first down. They need it out. That game, because he played him for something right there. You're playing for bowl eligibility. It's showing some heart. So that was mine. But yeah, to say he kept up with Indiana, that's always the impressive one.
Nice. It's a nice feather in your cap with your 3rd college start. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, facts.
Hey, and I mean, I will throw the Clemson game in there as well. That was the one where it's like it showed me that, you know, we don't play a ton of Big Ten teams, right? So like seeing that against ACC competition, like that was at least a good kind of measuring stick for me in that type of game. I know it's a bowl game, a little bit less stakes than in that type of bowl game than you would get, you know, in a regular season game. But I thought he played really well. Kind of showed me what he could do against similar competition that he'll face in the ACC. But David, you already brought it up a little bit, so we'll kind of kick it that direction. Like this backup battle right now. Like who do y'all think is going to wind up kind of getting that number 2 spot?
I think it's kind of an open competition. I think it really comes down to Bryce Baker and Troy Hune. Hune's the true freshman. Baker is the guy who redshirted last year at North Carolina. And I would probably lean Baker because he's slightly older, but I don't really know if there's a huge difference between the two right now. And I think that's both exciting and scary a little bit because neither of these guys have played in a college game. I think Baker's the more athletic guy, but Hune is probably the more prolific passer. And it kind of just depends on the way that the Hokies want to roll with this. I can see both of those guys. Like, do you want a true freshman as your backup? Maybe not, but if he earns it, he's the guy. And I think the good thing is that you're Virginia Tech. You feel really good about your starter, and then you feel really good about both of these guys. And that's not to kind of forget about Keldon Ryan, but it seems like he's kind of the 4th option there. Yeah. I think Baker and Hune, whichever one wins the job, you go, man, we feel good about QB2 and QB3. And if something were to happen, like it'd obviously be a learning curve. You can't do the same stuff because Grunkemeier's played a lot. Those guys haven't. But I think whichever one it is, you feel really strongly that, okay, they can go out and execute what they want. And I've been impressed with both of those guys from the practices I've seen, the passes they've thrown. Like, both of those guys can sling. I think this is one of the most talented quarterback rooms Virginia Tech has had in a while.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of who ends up winning the backup quarterback job, there are at least 3 P4 quarterbacks on this roster. I mean, when's the last time Virginia Tech had 2? It's been years. Like, it's legitimately been years. The fan base, that it got so bad, like, you know, fans were clamoring for Pop Watson, and it got to the point where, like, the coaching staff wouldn't even play him when the games didn't matter anymore. Yep. And like that was just the quarterback room last year, right? That's how things were. It's just different now. Like, to David's point, Baker's slightly older, but hasn't played, right? So like him and Hune together, it's kind of like you flip a coin. And then I haven't been in practice, but based on what David's saying, like Keldon Ryan being the 4th guy, it's like, okay, he hadn't played either. But you're in this spot now where you feel good enough about your quarterback room to move AJ Brand elsewhere too. That's the other thing, right? Another quarterback was in the room. You said, okay, you can go play another position. Like, we're good here with what we've got, which you can interpret that a couple different ways, right? Maybe AJ Brand just wasn't a P4 quarterback or just wasn't going to factor in this this competition at all, but they do want him to remain on the roster and play elsewhere. Virginia Tech hasn't had that luxury is what I'm getting at. That's why I bring that up. Like, they haven't had the luxury to say you can go try to play another position because we feel good enough about what we got with backups. So I think that's an encouraging sign.
We've actually had guys that should be probably playing other positions playing quarterback. In the past.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. That's very true.
Well, the reason I think we need to bring it up is just because of the era, right? We're still in the portal era, and you got to kind of feel whoever gets that leg up, whoever I hope we see numerous times in the second half of games, they're going to have a leg up going to the future. And you always feel in the back of your mind, if this guy's not the starter, like this year, he's gone. And so that's why I kind of wanted to get y'all's outlooks, but agreed. I mean, I'm trying to go back when the last time we had 3 on the roster.
I mean, it was 2019 when they had Willis, Hooker, and Patterson.
Yeah.
And all 3 of those guys played that year and contributed big time. But not all 3 of them were, I think, very proficient passers. I think that's what you have in these guys. Like Hooker and Patterson were very mobile. I don't know that you're going to get as much mobility out of these guys. Not that they're not good athletes, but the other thing I want to add is you got a guy that's going to sign in December named Peter Bork. He's a top 100 commit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they've got they looks like they're going to get another 4-star top, pretty highly rated recruit in the 2028 class as well, a quarterback. And guess what, man? There's going to be a lot of competition in that room. Yeah. And somebody's going to be unhappy. Probably multiple people are going to be unhappy because quarterback is a unique position where only one guy gets to play. Yeah. And that's a good problem to have. You're going to see a lot of guys fight for those spots, whether it's a second or third spot, because you got a redshirt sophomore starter in Ethan Grunkemeyer. Like, ideally, he's your starter for 3 years in the same offense and can progress. And then you get to figure out the rest behind it, whether it's Baker or Hune or Peter Bork coming in. That's a great problem to have. Complete overhaul of the quarterback room.
Definitely. So, talking a little bit more about the roster, you talk about have a good problem as in, multiple quarterbacks, maybe not so much of a great problem to have in the wide receiver room is that we've only got 2 guys that's been proven players at the Power 4 level. We got Quinshawn Brown, and then we got Aiden Green. But besides that, not very many other guys have, had that experience on the Power 4 level. So who do y'all kind of think is going to take that 3rd and 4th role? Because, wide receiver is much different than quarterback. You got to have 4 to 5 guys on that field that can play that position at one time. So who are y'all kind of looking at, and who are y'all thinking that maybe step up to fill those roles? And we'll start with Mike on this.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think Virginia Tech fans are banking on Aiden Green being the true number 1. No questions asked. He's just going to fill the role that you expect a number 1 receiver to play in the ACC. And I think the reason why is because he's improved every year, and that was in spite of poor quarterback play. So I think it's fair, right? It's fair to have that take. I also want to see it first, right? To be we got to be absolutely sure he's a number 1 guy, Tech fans have done this in the past with Trey Turner. They've done this in the past in more dire times with Caleb Smith. I don't think Aiden Green is either one of those 2 guys. I think he's better than both. I was never as high on Trey Turner because I just think he kind of leveled off in his development. I think Aiden Green's gotten better every year. I think he has a chance to be really, really good. But I do want to see it first. I feel more confident in the role that Quayshawn Brown's going to play because he's been in the slot. He's been productive. He's played with a good quarterback before. I think he will find ways to be productive in his role, and Virginia Tech needs him to be productive in his role in the slot. to actually answer the question now about who's that third receiver going to be, it's anybody's guess, man. Like, it's really anybody's guess. Like, is Brody Adams finally going to be healthy and contribute? Is Chance Wiggins finally going to be healthy and contribute? Is Jeff Exenor going to kind of come out of nowhere as a Penn State transfer and take that role? Or is it simply going to be just like the tight ends? Like, it's going to be the two receivers, the tight ends, and like you rotate into Kai Heath in the slot, because he's obviously played significant snaps too. Like, I think Takai Heath's going to play a lot. So like, right. Is it just as simple as that? It's really just going to be the tight ends are going to fill the role along with like Takai Heath as like the third pass catcher. That kind of remains to be seen. I'm interested to see the types of, and maybe David has a little bit more insight into this being a practice, but like I'm interested in seeing the types of offensive packages Virginia Tech comes out in, right? Like, if it's going to be two tight ends a lot, lean on the running game, which I think we all expect given what kind of team Tech was last year. Maybe the third receiver in the receiver room doesn't matter quite as much, right? We'll see. But I think it's kind of anybody's guess at this point as far as who's going to emerge as the true number 3 wide receiver. I think that's kind of very much up in the air at this point, but Tech's got some options.
Hey, just because you brought it up, Mike, I want to ask another question or talk about something else. David, don't forget what you was going to say, because I know you got some good stuff for us on that wide receiver stuff. But when you brought up the fact of, we've kind of penciled in Aiden Green as the number 1 receiver as Virginia Tech fans, right? And no disrespect to Aiden. I think he's a good football player, and he's been here. He's stuck around. He deserves the chance to be on the field, praying that he stays healthy and he can get out and contribute. But going back to if he's the number 1 guy, or if he is, as hyped as probably we want him to be, what does Aiden Green do good? Like, as a receiver, anybody, what does he, and I'm not saying he's not good. I'm just trying to think, like, what makes him a head and shoulder better than the next guy? What does he do good as a receiver, in y'all's opinion?
He's always been good at going up for balls. Like, he's been
50-50 ball guy.
He's been good at 50-50 balls. Like, he has some explosion down, like, doing that.
I think he's that, but he's sneakily more of a possession receiver than you really would think.
Right.
In a lot of ways. Like, he's a guy that can move the sticks for you a little bit. He's not going to be that, slot type guy that moves the sticks like that, but if it's a 3rd and 8, he can run you a 10-yard hitch and use his body to make the catch and get the first down. I think he's that type of guy.
Can I say this? David, if y'all jump in and disagree or agree, we don't know what he can be because we haven't had a good enough quarterback to show what he can be.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And again, that's just is what it is. We didn't have the quarterback. We didn't have the protection. And now you hope just a upgraded quarterback reveals more than a 50-50 ball, or like Brian's saying, he's 6'2" and some weight, got a little speed, kind of a partial possession receiver.
Yeah, so my thing was where I was going with it, and the reason I asked is because I think, to me, and I could be wrong, he's not super fast. Watching him in and out of breaks, he's not super quick, but he kind of reminds me of a lot of what, not the same, but does some stuff that Isaiah Ford did. Going up and getting certain balls in traffic. If you scheme him open and put him one-on-one, he 80% of the time can beat the man one-on-one. Yeah. But the problem is we haven't been able to see what he can do one-on-one multiple times in a game. We may see it once or twice. He's not going to outrun anybody, and he's got caught in the past if he's in the open field. So again, no disrespect to Aiden Green. I think he's a great receiver. But the only reason I brought that up is because I've seen on both sides where people say, well, if that's your number 1 receiver, then you're in trouble. But I also see, like, how do we know that? Because we haven't seen what all he can do. And I think he's a heck of a receiver. Like I said, to compare him to one of the Hokie greats, because Isaiah Ford's one of the Hokie greats. Like, I mean, is he the only person or the last person that caught 1,000 yards for us? One of the only people to catch 1,000 yards for us. Like, it's been
not the last, because Phillips was 17, and I think Phillips had 1,000 that year to break.
No, it was Ford. Phillips was about 40 yards short of 1,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say he was like 960. So
and Ford did it in back-to-back years.
Right. So again, the reason I brought that up is because that's kind of what I see Aiden Green's role is, or what he does. It's kind of a Isaiah Ford type receiver. Because we loved Ford, and then when he went to the combine, he ran like a 4.7. We was like, God damn, he was running that slow. You know what I'm saying? I ain't saying Aiden Green's that slow, but
I think he's reliable. Like
great word.
He doesn't do anything that's flashy. He's not going to knock your socks off with his speed necessarily, but I think he's got pretty sure hands. He only had, according to PFF, he only had one drop last year on 63 targets.
Pretty good.
He last season, with a quarterback who only completed 56.5% of his passes, Aiden Green had 31 catches for 516 yards and 3 touchdowns. And I think if you go back and look at some of his highlights, like you think back to that Miami game in Coral Gables 2 years ago, or Miami Gardens, where Kyron was scrambling around and Aiden Green pops up in the back of the end zone, and he fought he had that hurdle against Minnesota in that Duke's Mayo Bowl. Like, he's very athletic. He always seems to know where to be, and I think he's got a really good work ethic, and he's a leader. Maybe those traits don't necessarily make him the prototypical receiver, but I think for a quarterback who's still pretty young and still kind of adjusting to Virginia Tech, like these will be his first snaps in this offense in this stadium. I don't know if you could really ask for like a more reliable, more helpful receiver than a guy like Aiden Green, because I think it's one of those guys where you always know he's going to be where he's supposed to be. He's supposed to run this route. You know he's going to be there. You need him to come back for a ball. He's going to be there. I think that's what Aiden Green adds, but it's not necessarily something that like jumps off the page per se.
Great way to put it. Now, David, you got to tell us who the third and fourth guys are.
Yeah, I think Marlon Jackson from Louisiana Tech is the guy that I would sort of pencil into that third receiver role right now. He's a guy who didn't necessarily have really good and consistent quarterback play at Louisiana Tech, but he's been a pretty good receiver. He was a little bit banged up in the spring. He's 6'2", 210, so he's one of the bigger, longer, lankier guys in that room, but he's played a lot of football. And it seems like over these last couple of weeks of camp that he's really come on, and he's got the experience level over some of these other guys. I think the battle for 3, 4, 5, you look at a guy like, you go down the list of Chance Adams, Chance Wiggins, Keelan Adams. I mixed up their last names. Davion Brown, Fat Rat, who's gotten a lot of praise in fall camp. Shamarius Peterkin, Tyseer Denmark, Luke Stewie. Like, there are a bunch of guys, even AJ Brand, who have gotten some praise. It's just, okay, who's going to kind of step out from the pack? And right now, if I had to put money on it, I would say maybe like Stewie or Denmark. But you've also got a guy in there in Takai Heath who has played a lot of snaps. He just hasn't been very consistent. But is he more consistent with more consistent quarterback play? Like, it's a weird puzzle that Fontel Mines has. And I'm interested to see when we get into like week 3 of the season, where you kind of have a good feel for what your guys in the room can do. Who's playing all these snaps? Where's the snap distribution? Is it only going to 3 guys, or are you rotating in Takai Heath or Peterkin or a Denmark or even a Davion Brown, who he's a guy I could see get some snaps at punt return or kick return, because I think he's got that kind of athleticism, and that's what some of the coaches have talked about it. So I think they've got a lot of questions there. You feel good about 1 and 2, maybe okay about 3, and then it's kind of an open book, man. And similar to the quarterback room, like this is the theme of this year's team. It's just competition everywhere.
Yeah.
And somebody's got to step up and earn their snaps. Like you want a bigger piece of the pie, you got to go get it. And you guys mentioned the tight ends. You got 4 really good tight ends that want to eat away at their piece of the pie too. A Luke Reynolds, a Benji Gosnell, a Harrison St. Germain, a Jerikas Hairston. Like those guys are really, really quality. That's one of the strongest position groups on the team. And if you want to play more wide receivers, you got to go prove that you should be on that field over the tight ends in some capacity.
Go ahead, Sheldon.
Yeah. So we're talking about the receivers. Let's talk about Quayshawn Brown. Personally, I love this guy. I think he's going to be great. I loved him since they announced his signing. A lot of his peripherals were really good at Duke. When you dig into some of the numbers there. But so he lined up. It was actually 80% of his snaps came in the slot last year at Duke, which was ranked pretty high in the conference. Actually, interestingly, Takai Heath led the entire conference at 98% from the slot. So got a lot of slot experience there. But because of the tight end room that David was talking about, a lot of folks feel like we're going to use a lot of 12 personnel this season. That being said, over under 60% of Brown snaps come from the slot this year. Where do you guys kind of see him fitting in within the structure of this offense?
I would assume over. I would assume over. I mean,
that was a Curtis question, by the way.
We're talking. You said over under 60%. Yeah, I would probably.
He was at 8% last year.
Yeah, I would probably lean over, but it'll be interesting. Like you want to use Luke Reynolds, you can put Luke Reynolds in the slot and move Brown out wide.
Yeah,
like it's really the mismatches of what Ty Howell wants to do. I think they feel really confident in Brown and being a guy. I mean, he's 5'8", 175, so he's not the biggest guy. But you talk about another guy that's very sure hands. You know exactly what you're getting out of him. I would probably lean over him being in the slot, but yeah, I mean, he doesn't drop much either, and I think I could see it being right around 55, 60, 65, like in that range, because if you want to get your best players on the field, there are maybe instances where you got Luke Reynolds in the slot instead of Brown. The person that time that kind of eats into might be Takai Heath. Like he was kind of Tech's go-to slot guy last year. He might be the 4th or 5th receiver on the depth chart and the number 2 or 3 slot option. But that's what happens when you bring in really quality players and you got to fight for playing time.
And when you're running a lot of 12 personnel, but you also have a guy like Luke Reynolds that is a mismatch nightmare and is someone that can run routes well. It is someone that can, do things well in the receiving game away from the line of scrimmage. I mean, that's really just it's going to be interesting to see how the interplay with the tight ends and the wide receivers works, and whether or not there's going to be that kind of feeling out period for that first, 2 or 3 games where, Howell and company are trying to figure out exactly, who the best guys, what the best matchup. If we go to this formation, are we splitting Luke way out? Are we putting him in the slot? Do we have Queso out wide? Is there a scenario where Queso comes off and you got Jackson and Green in there with Luke Reynolds? I don't know. I'm really interested to see what they're going to do with this.
Well, the reason I set the question as it did, Sheldon just throws me out there. This is stupid. Beat up Curtis. Thanks, Sheldon. But the reason I asked it is because having a good tight end room and knowing he played in the slot, and then knowing also if Queso chooses to go pro, he's going to get drafted as a slot guy. But he's also trying to say, I can play a Y. I'm not necessarily an X, but I can play the Y and come in here. That's where I'm seeing it's like we're not going to be running 11 personnel all the time. We can't, because I think somebody put on there, somebody said it, put your best players on the field. And by doing that, that means Luke Reynolds. Right now, that means Queso Brown. That means Aiden. Obviously, the running back room is what it is. We're going to hit that next week. But let me ask this, and kind of leading into that. If this receiver room struggles, and it's not Ethan Grunkenmeyer's fault, and the offensive line plays better, is Fontel Mines on the hot seat? He's been here, and I say this for this, and I'm trying to be nice. He's been here since 2022. His best stat-wise wide receiver was, I'll take a guess.
Probably about 500 yards.
Jalen Lane or Caleb Smith?
Caleb Smith in 2022. Okay, remember Felton, Lane, Lolly Jennings. Could you see James being like, you can't do this crap here?
This message is brought to you by Apple Card. Shave ice by the beach. A trip to the state fair. And a throwback flick at the local drive-in. They're more than just items to check off the summer bucket list. They're also opportunities to earn 2% daily cash back when you use your Apple Card with Apple Pay. Apply for Apple Card now and use in minutes with Apple Pay. Subject to credit approval. Apple Card is issued by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, Salt Lake City branch. Terms and more at applecard.com.
This episode is brought to you by Google Chrome. You think you know a browser, but Gemini and Chrome? That's new. It can help you with practically anything on the web, like restoring a vintage motorcycle from a 50-page restoration blog, or finally break down that long article you've had open for weeks. Gemini and Chrome is here for it. Ready to make anything online make sense? There's no place like Chrome. Check responses, setup required, compatibility and availability varies, 18+.
Oh, go ahead.
I'd be.
David look like you want to. Well,
Yeah,
Mike,
I don't know. I mean,
I love it. Finally got y'all on a buy.
I think. I mean, first of all, you guys know how much Franklin values recruiting. And I think the value Mines brings as a recruiter, particularly in the Commonwealth, specifically in Richmond, is unmatched. He tried to get Fontel Mines to Penn State. I think this is a big-time year for this room, though. And I say that because there are a lot of guys that just it is their time. They've either got to prove that they can play at this level or they really can, and they're going to get passed over. I think Vance Wiggins and Keelan Adams they're really highly touted guys, and they've got a lot of talent, but they've been banged up and have not had an opportunity to really go out and do it on the field. Or when they have, they haven't done a ton. Those were the two kind of prized recruits for Fontel Mines, and they haven't done a ton. That's not to say they won't, but at some point you got to get guys in, develop them, and they got to eventually produce. I think Aiden Green will kind of tell us a lot about Fontel Mines this year. This is a big-time year with a new quarterback, a new offensive system, and this is a guy that Mines has recruited, coached up. You've seen him grow year over year. If Aiden Green has a big year, I think you're going, okay, Fontel Mines, that's a guy Fontel Mines developed. That's probably Fontel Mines' prize development in terms of being at Virginia Tech over the last couple of years. But I don't – hot seat is an interesting word because I don't know exactly how Franklin views it, but the wide receivers have to produce. That's the bottom line. And it makes it a really interesting conversation when you say that you get below wide receiver 2 and it's just question marks. That's a good thing, but that's also a bad thing because injuries happen. We know this. We'll kind of see what happens. I think there could be, depending on how it plays out, you could get to the end of the season and go, Virginia Tech did not get the most out of that wide receiver room. And that's kind of been the thing over the last couple of years. Even when they had Felton and Jennings and Lane, they didn't necessarily – but you could blame that a little bit on the quarterback. It's a multitude of factors, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, the only other thing I have to add, we don't know who the number 3 or number 4 wide receivers are, but it's not from a lack of talent. But I think what we're going to find out is this because they haven't been well developed from a coaching standpoint, or is this because the quarterback play has been really, really poor? And I think we'll probably find that answer out pretty quickly. But I lean with David in that, like, Fontel Mines, I think, has been really important to Virginia Tech's recruiting in the past. I think he's proven to be a pretty important guy for Virginia Tech's recruiting currently. So Franklin kept him on for a reason. And obviously, if the wide receivers don't produce, then it's a different conversation, especially if the quarterback play ends up being pretty good. But I feel like if quarterback play is good, it's probably been a pretty good year for the receivers too. So I think it kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah, short of a 65 catch, near 1,000-yard season for Luke Reynolds, would the wide receivers not get some of that pie for a good quarterback season from Grunkemeyer? So it's hard to imagine a scenario where he has that good of a year and the wide receivers don't show at least a decent amount of growth compared to what we've seen. And to the point y'all have made, I mean, I think it's really hard to judge what this room's potential is, only because the quarterback play for Virginia Tech has been uneven at best and atrocious at worst for the duration of Mines' tenure in Blacksburg. We know he can recruit. That's kind of unquestionable at this point. I think we're the verdict is still out on the development, only because it's really hard to put an accurate gauge on that. I think between the injuries to some of the younger talent and then the bad quarterback play, we've seen Aiden Green grow every year. I think that's if you want to point to a Mine success story, that's probably the one that you would point to at this point. But we still don't know what the ceiling of that looks like with him as kind of the focal point of the offense, or at least one of the focal points of the offense. So we're going to find that out as well. But I don't think he would necessarily be on the hot seat with a bad year, but I think you would start to hear the rumblings of what could be if that doesn't also improve in a 2027 year, if we see a repeat of similar type performances that we've seen the last couple of years out of that room.
Yeah.
Where we going?
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about tight ends and wide receivers, which is very important. But we've seen a lot of those guys on highlights, clips, and things like that over the past couple of weeks. Part of being on highlights, somebody has to have a low light. You know who has the low light? Tyson Flowers. Tyson Flowers has got burnt probably every clip that I've watched, right? No disrespect. I hope I can't tell if the tight ends and wide receivers are just that good or he's bad, but I know he's getting burnt. So going to that safety room, we've seen Knowledge Harrell flip over. The safety, we've heard Coach Pryor talk about Kenny Wosley taking some snaps at safety, along with some other guys being rumored to take some snaps there. For you guys, question is, 1 being worst, 10 being best, where's your confidence in the safety room?
Go ahead, David. You've been in practice, buddy.
Yeah.
The floor is yours.
I feel really confident in Quentin Reddish, but the rest of that room, man.
Good answer.
I would probably say I'd say maybe it's like a 4 right now.
Yeah. And
I would say of all the possession groups on this team, this might be the one that is the most questionable to me. Quentin Reddish was really good 2 years ago when he was thrown into the fire as a true freshman. He was really good at the beginning of last season, and then he got injured. I think you really saw just the chaoticness of that room where, in a couple weeks span, Reddish gets hurt and he's out for the year. And then Christian Ellis, makes a game-winning pass deflection against NC State, and next week is in the portal. And now he's playing for UVA. That's college football in 2026. But they had to rely on guys.
Before he left, wasn't he in like a jersey reveal or helmet reveal too?
I'm sure he
Christian
was.
Ellis,
Probably after
sure
that NC State pass game-winning play. Yeah,
I think he was in a jersey reveal or a helmet reveal, and then he got in the portal. Anyway, my bad. Go ahead.
No, I mean,
that was crazy.
They had to rely on
that good. Yeah.
they had to rely on Flowers. I just think he was okay, but the guys that he's playing with last year, Jordan Bass, a guy that was coming off an injury, playing linebacker, converted to safety, probably should have been redshirting, and 2 true freshmen in Sheldon Robinson and Brennan Johnson. They just didn't have a lot back there. I think they'll be better now that they have Reddish in, but I was surprised a little bit that they did not attack this position more in the portal. I'm curious, like Kenny Wosley playing there. Can he come in and have an impact? Is he a guy that you feel really comfortable with? The big thing with Flowers is his open field tackling. Like his PFF grade last year as a tackler was 45.4. That's not good. His PFF grade at Rice at tackling the previous year was 71.0. So maybe he's a better tackler, just not in great positions last year. I would take a lot of the clips you see with a grain of salt because somebody has to get burnt in those clips, Tally. It just
it's
so
the same
happens,
person. It's
but
the
it
same
just so
person.
happens that he gets matched up against a guy who's probably going to be an all-ACC tight end eventually in Luke Reynolds.
Yeah, that's true.
Luke Reynolds will be a matchup nightmare for literally everyone Virginia Tech plays this year.
That's true.
Like it's not just Tyson Flowers, but like he's a really good leader, and I think Virginia Tech needs him. But that if you look at a point to a weak spot on the defense, it's probably there. Yeah. And then you go, okay, Sheldon Robinson, I think you feel okay about him, but and maybe Brennan Johnson, but they're so young. Same thing with Jordan Bass. Like Bass, he played all right last year, but seemed like a targeting machine at times.
Yep.
You need to have confidence in that position, and I could see a scenario where they keep Wosley there, or they move somebody else over from corner, a room they feel really strongly about, because they say we got to get our best DBs on the field. Doesn't matter who they are, we got to get them on the field. I think Reddish is one of them. Flowers could be. Maybe better coaching at safety will help him. But that is a big question mark to me right now is, okay, who's safeties 2, 3, and 4? They got to figure that out.
Yeah, if it's not Flowers, then who is it going to be, right? Like, are you confident in Jordan Bass filling into that role alongside Quentin Reddish? If the answer is no, then are you moving somebody from the cornerbacks room, right? Like, is Kenny Wosley actually going to be lining up at safety? Are you actually getting your best? Like, is that the way to get your best 5 on the field, like David just said? It's going to be interesting. I think outside of Reddish and Jaquez White, there are a lot of questions in the secondary, but there's a lot of talent in the cornerback room, and I think they'll figure it out. Like, I think there's enough there, but it's really hard when you're seeing, again, I also take the highlight films with a grain of salt. Like these clips we see, nobody is really seeing a ton of practice. Fans are seeing even less, and the clips they're seeing, Tyson Flowers ends up in a couple of them. It's like, oh my God, we are cooked at safety. It's like, not necessarily. Like it might be okay, right? It might be all right.
Yeah, maybe that guy catching the ball is just really good. That's what I keep holding on to.
Yeah, got to hold on to some hope there. So
top 20 pick.
We'll figure it out. But as far as who's it going to be, like, I hope it's Flowers. But if it's not, then that is a question that Virginia Tech really, really needs to figure out an answer to.
Yeah, and I mean the hope is that Reddish stays healthy, so at baseline you're at least better than you were last year, because most of the guys that are behind Reddish played meaningful snaps last year, at least a couple of them in the case of Bass and Flowers. But I want to take a look at some of these the sophomores in the room. David, you already mentioned Sheldon Robinson. We got Brennan Johnson in there. Knowledge Harrell moved back to that position as well. Which of those 3 do you think are going to have the most significant role in the safety room when we get into the season here?
I would probably lean Robinson. I think he really came on at times when the Hokies needed him last year. I'm pulling up his PFF stats right now, where Flowers at times struggled. Robinson, while young, was impressive. His tackling grade was a 73.6 last year. He only had two, Georgia Tech and Florida State, only two not great games as far as tackling goes. He's a very young but impressive player. I think Brennan Johnson is too. He just didn't necessarily see as much game time. I would probably go maybe 1, 2, 3 in that order. Harrell has not been a guy that Virginia Tech has talked a lot about in camp. That doesn't mean he's not going to factor in. But I think he's a guy they had at corner, and the corner room kind of filled up, so they moved him around. He was playing a little nickel last year, and now he's back to safety, and I think he's kind of shifted around. But I like Robinson. I think he's a guy I think your future safety pairing could be Reddish and Robinson back there. And I think you'd feel pretty confident about that because they're two very high IQ players, very smart, and both really good tacklers. I think Brennan Johnson can also factor in too, but you also have to remember that, I believe he played a little bit of linebacker at Highland Springs in high school. Yep. Not necessarily a true safety. So he's also still learning it a little bit. But he's obviously multi-time, Virginia State Player of the Year. He's really, really good. So I think those two guys you will see plenty of this year, especially depending on how the coaching staff views, what they have, the options at that position.
I think we could have used another Johnson brother back there in the. We could have used another Johnson brother back there at safety if Derek Peanuthead freaking whatever his last name is, Jones, didn't run him off. I mean, you run off a legacy kid, and now he's going and playing for Wake Forest. I don't care if he was sitting on the bench for Virginia Tech. I'd much rather him be here than at Wake Forest. But anyway, that's my spiel on old coaches. I hope Tennessee don't win a game. Derek Jones, you may be a great guy. I know you think you invented cheetah wings, but black people been eating them kind of wings all our life. You didn't invent them. I'm just going to tell you that. Get out of here. I'm tired of him. He started popping up on my Facebook, man. I mean, what is going on? I need the internet to let me rest, man. I don't want to see it. I'm not following you on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Then it starts popping up on my Facebook. I don't want to see no Tennessee shit on my Facebook. I'm about to delete it. I'm going to just delete it, man.
Mike, your thoughts on this question?
I agree with David. I think I was going to say Robinson because just we've seen more of him, right? Johnson had some good moments. He was thrown into the fire last year, but I think Robinson is the guy out of the three that we've mentioned where I'd peg him 1, 2, 3, just based off of playing time and what we've seen so far.
Nice.
Robinson has good size too. I think he's like 6'2", 210, something like that. So real good size, even though he's a sophomore. He's very physical when he's coming up and tackling. Like David said, I mean, to have again, the thing that worries me about that room is that I know that these are just clips and they're just highlights and things like that from camp. But I seen Tyson Flowers play last year. And you know what dogs do to flower beds? They shit.
There we go.
Oh God.
Just saying.
All right.
Hey, Tally, you said 6'2", 210. You're 6'2", 208. You're spot on, man.
Yeah.
And he's a Woodbury Forest kid, so he's another in-state guy.
Yeah, I'm still getting used to Virginia Tech recruiting Woodbury Forest at this clip because for so long that was just like a UVA pipeline. So I'm still mentally adjusting to that, but I think I'm getting there.
All right, let's move forward into special teams.
Yeah, I would say Woodbury Forest definitely gives off more UVA vibes than Tech vibes, but if they have some good players, we'll take them. So.
That's right.
All right, so we're talking some special teams now. I was looking at the numbers for Doug Shearer, special teams coach. going back to 2019 at Miami of Ohio. This is from the FBI ratings, which I think is probably the best all-encompassing special teams ratings out there. It takes into account all the different special teams units and adjusts based on expected point values, looking at the overall efficiency for special teams units. So 2019 was when Doug Shearer started at Miami of Ohio as special teams coordinator. They ranked 20th in the country that year. Next year, they were 7th in the country, and then took a little bit of a dip the year after that. When it comes to UConn in 2022, and the first 3 years, they struggle efficiency-wise on special teams, but last year they were 34th nationally. And I did also see that Curtis made the point that they outperformed UConn outperformed BT special teams-wise in every area except for field goal kicking, which is obviously a testament to John Love, of course. But so obviously Doug has a great reputation. He's done a really good job at a couple of different schools. What do you guys expect to see from his units this season?
I think the return game will be better. Like I expect that just based off of personnel. Having John Love at kicker helps a lot. I just think just in the return game, especially, I think there are a lot of really dynamic options. Quayshawn Brown, Davion Brown. I mean, take your Takai Heath. You could throw him in the mix somewhere just based off of his speed. I just think there are options, right? And having Love return as your kicker is phenomenal. And I just expect the return game to be a lot better. That's really the one thing that stands out to me.
I look at Shelton. I look at what Nathan Totten was able to do at Marshall last year. I think like Marshall across the board wasn't anything special, but in terms of punting efficiency, I just looked it up. Marshall was 10th. Like Totten was a really, really good punter. He comes in the portal. You've already got John Love, one of the best kickers in the country. I think they feel pretty confident in Cole Bird as the kickoff specialist. He's from Bassett, just down the road. I think you bring back Christian Epling, long snapper. Totten's going to be the holder. Like that group, I think is pretty wired well together and will be pretty strong. But it goes back to what Mike said, the return game. I think one of the kind of under radar departures last year in the middle of the season was Tucker Holloway, because Tucker didn't really have opportunities to return punts, but Tech has missed that part of the game for a couple of years now. Holloway had a couple flashes, a couple of really nice performances, but outside of that, and Jalen, we really like Jalen Lane, right? Like, Jalen Lane's been pretty consistent, but the kickoffs, you point to like Tootin had one, I think, against Florida State, but it's really inconsistent. And then you factor in the silly penalties in those situations, and special teams is a spot where you can't lose ground. You need to gain ground or just kind of be neutral even. And I think Doug Shearer will do just that. And he mentioned the two Browns. I think you could see Quayshawn Brown at punt returner, but I think if you want to get a guy like Fat Rat, Davion Brown on the field, like that's a great spot to do it. And at kickoff, kick return, you got Thomas Williams, guy who's been doing it, Tyler Mason. You could put Messiah Mickens or even Jeffrey Overton back there if you really wanted to. But you need to take advantage of that. I think for the last couple of years, those spots have kind of been a little positive. They need to be a much bigger positive if you want to win some of these close games. Like you got to have some big plays on special teams. Jalen Lane was able to change the game in that way. Do you have a guy like Jalen Lane that can change things in an instant? I don't know. I think that's for the staff to figure out. But I think they're in a much better position now. And, special teams at Virginia Tech will always be important, obviously.
I think Cam Selton caught a ball on the 1 yard line and went out of bounds.
Yeah.
Tally, I will bet you that will not happen this year.
That's all I'm asking for. Like, some people think that I'm asking for a lot of stuff. Like, bro, I just want to see some competent football. And okay, I understand people make mistakes, right? When he did that, I wanted to see a coach like flip a table, or when he comes off the field, grab his helmet, grab his face mask, do nothing. We didn't do nothing. We was just over there thinking about fucking Crater Lake or something. Is that the place that they go to? Is it called
Crater Lake?
Crater Lake, yeah. They was over there thinking about that. Crater Lake, something. They didn't think about going to the lake. I want to see somebody get in trouble when you
Alabama.
He caught a pass, he caught a kick and stepped out at the one. Just let it go. Just let it go, man.
Touch the ball.
I don't know, man. I'm just saying. I just want to see some coaches with a pulse. We ain't even got on Brett Pryor. We ain't gonna even get on you tonight, man. We got too much to go over. But I'm just gonna say, VMI better not score over like 3 points. So you got some people who gonna be trying to get you out of town. ODU already ran you out of town last year. Go ahead, Brian and Curtis.
Virginia Tech ranked 126th last year in kick return efficiency.
Sheldon, this guy is trying to outstat you, man. You gotta get on your game.
He's the guy who could do it. He could do it.
I'm just adding to what Sheldon's saying. I mean, it's like, you got to have guys back there that are going to make smart decisions, right?
Competent, man. Just competent.
Like smart decisions, competent. But you need athletes back there. Like, correct. You mentioned Thomas Williams, and let me for 1 second. You mentioned him, and he's done it, but he's never exploded. Like, that's like the part of the game where you want them to not think about kicking it inside the 5. Because if they're kicking it inside the 5, they're basically saying, you can't do shit with this. Like, you can't block this up. You have no one that can explode. We're going to kick it at the 5. And then Tally will make a point of, we also know you have idiots back there who will step out at the 2-yard line with the ball in their hands. So we're going to win this regardless. And like you said, David, Mickens, Fat Rat, we are now in the era of 5 years. You have 5 years to play. There is no more red shirt starting this year. If there is a kid who is a burner and he is a freshman, you sit him down and say, you are going to be the kickoff guy. Go run as hard as you can, as fast as you can. This is your only job this year. This is your only job this year.
And the great thing about that is that now if you've got a guy that is that athletic but also has the acumen and the ability to make the right decisions in those situations, you can go ahead and trust that true freshman out there, because that player's probably not going to see the field in any other capacity. So you're not worried about injuries. Like, you don't have Jalen Lane back there, returning punts, and now he's like a focal point of your offense, but he's also a guy that's standing 35 yards down the field waiting for 11 guys running at him full speed. So if that's going to be where this thing goes, I think that's a great way to approach it, because it gets these young guys experience, but it also doesn't worsen your depth chart if one of those injuries happens on those special teams plays.
That's what happened with Tootin a couple of years ago against Florida State, if you recall. He took he took it back to the house and then pulled up a little bit at the end of the run, and he was not himself for the rest of the game.
Right.
And it's like, great, like, obviously fantastic play, like, that's a game changer, but we need you to go out and run the ball. Right. So it's finding that balance. And I wonder, I asked Franklin about this a couple of weeks ago. I wonder in terms of the special teams units, as far as like blocking goes, kickoff return, punt return, now that anybody can play, you don't have to redshirt guys. I wonder if those units will be stronger, maybe for both teams, like both teams in the game, because you don't have, if you feel confident about a true freshman, hey, this guy's one of our best gunners, we can play him. We don't have to worry about playing him for 4 games and redshirting him.
You say that, David, and then it goes back to what Shelton talks about with Shear. That's when you need a good coach, because you need to figure out who's the guy. You need to figure out the blocking. And again, we're not at the NFL level yet, the way it blocks, but still on that. By the way, Nathan Totten just looks like your dumb punter with a big leg. Just look at his picture. Just look at him. Like,
Dang, Curtis.
I mean, seriously. Like, that's the guy I want punting because it looks like
punter with a big leg.
What are you supposed to do? I'm supposed to kick the ball as hard as I can, as far as I can, unless they tell me to, pull the wedge out, coach. Okay. But his stats back it up. You mentioned him. 20 over 50 and then 20 inside the 20. And you mentioned it, David, a few minutes ago. Mike, you kind of alluded to it as well, talking about Shear. It's the hidden yards. That's all those games that we were losing so close a few years ago. It was literally the hidden yards, stupid things like double numbers. I swear, if he has a double number, Sheldon, we're going to have to bust him. Sheldon, you're just going to have to come in here on Tuesday, and you're going to have to just lay him out, and that's what we'll start the show with. All right. Tally, let's talk about one more point before we go home here.
Oh, was it the point about the top 25 record?
Uh-huh.
Franklin's top 25 record. Where we want to go with this? It's been the point of emphasis with a lot of people, which, I just found out at the beginning of the show that somebody came out with something and ranked him, tier 2 coaching? Same tier as Ryan Day.
That was The Athletic.
That's kind of crazy, man. But let's talk about his record versus top 25 teams, I guess, right now. How are we feeling about that panel? And how do we feel it will be with him here at Virginia Tech?
So Penn State fans got really frustrated because he couldn't consistently beat Ohio State and Michigan and Oregon. It's that was the frustration. Okay. Virginia Tech would love to have that problem, man. Would love to have that problem. So cross that bridge and get to it sort of thing, as far as his record against top 5 teams. Franklin's going to have he runs his programs well. They're going to be competitive. They're going to be well coached. They're going to be, the team's going to be good. It's going to be a very high floor program, and his ceiling is a lot higher than what Virginia Tech's had since the 2000s. It's a reality. So I don't worry about this stuff. This isn't the Pry 1-score game stat that was driving me insane at the end, where it was this is crazy. Every
damn time.
Some of it's on coaching, but also some of this stuff is just luck, man. Yeah. I would love to be in a position where we can sit here on the panel at the beginning of a season and be worried about the 2 or 3 best teams on the schedule and how we're going to perform to get into a college football playoff. That would be an excellent problem to have. So everything else until then, especially in year 1, I think you just kind of roll with the punches a little bit. But there's a lot of stuff that Penn State fans were worried about at the end that Virginia Tech fans would love to have that issue right now. We would love to be in that position. So, yeah, I'm not concerned about any of that stuff off the bat. And, I also the stuff Franklin said about he's a better coach now, or he believes he's a better coach now because of what happened to him at Penn State. He's obviously going to have an opportunity to show that. It's a different program, different funding, all that stuff. But he's going to have an opportunity to show that. And we're going to see eventually if he's able to get over the hump, right, against these top teams. This was a question too. I bring this up just because David mentioned, or one of you guys mentioned, that he was in the same tier as Ryan Day. This is a question Ryan Day had to answer for a while. Can you get over the hump against Michigan? Can you win a national championship? Those were the questions being asked. Is Ryan Day on the hot seat? Then he goes out and he wins a title a couple of years ago. This stuff tends to take care of itself. So, yeah, man, I'm not worried about any of that right now.
It'll be a great problem, as Mike put it. It'll be great if Virginia Tech fans are going, man, is Franklin going to be able to win the big game? Because it's been a while since Virginia Tech has been in a big game. Like, Virginia Tech right now has one of the longest droughts in non-conference games against Power 4 competition. Hokies haven't beaten a non-conference Power 4 team since 2017, West Virginia.
And we haven't really played any great ones in that span either.
Losses to Rutgers and Vanderbilt and Purdue. Like, these are – I know Vanderbilt's been really good lately, but come on. Like, you know, it'll be great if Virginia Tech can get back to a point where, like it kind of was in the late 2000s, early 2010s, where it was, man, it would have been nice to have that Orange Bowl game back against Kansas.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to the offseason going, man, we should have won the Orange Bowl. Like, you got to a BCS Bowl, man. Like, it was a great season. If Virginia Tech's coming off a 3-win year, like, I think, we'll be talking a year or 2 years from now. Maybe this conversation is a little bit more advanced about Franklin and going, hey, what kind of big games can he win? But for now, it doesn't really shock me. When you play in those big time games, like, very few people have great records against those teams.
Yeah.
Because the coaches that win those games are the ones that usually have the best resources. The Kirby Smarts and Nick Sabans usually win those games, but not everybody can. Somebody has to lose them. But I think it's a testament to a lot of people that you can get to that game. And I think James Franklin is the coach that can get Virginia Tech back there. Whether he wins or not, I think, honestly, given everything Virginia Tech fans have gone through as of late, Hokie fans will be happy just to get back. Like, Hokies are playing in meaningful games again. The fan base will be grateful. Yeah. Then the conversation can start about, can you win those games? You got to get back there first.
The thing that throws me off all the time whenever I hear those conversations, and I get it, you know what I'm saying? I never hear anybody talk about that with Lane Kiffin. Never. I never hear anybody talk about the record with Lane Kiffin. And I'm just using him as an example because everybody in college football seems to love Lane and think he's the hottest coach. I like Lane. I think he's a cool coach. I'm not going to say he's the hottest coach, but his record against top 25 teams is 15-26.
Top 25, 15, 26, 6-16. He's like in the Franklin realm where he is top 10.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I think people just have selective memory on certain people and coaches whenever they want to on that stat. So,
well, here's the big piece with Franklin with the top 25, because everybody looks and it's 17-26. Mm-hmm. He's 4-21. This is Penn State. 4-21 against top 10. Now, 13 of those are Michigan and Ohio State.
Mm.
And you want to sit here and say, well, as long as he was there, Ohio State was always good. Michigan had their ups and downs. I don't know if Mike's going to be able to make it back on. But so if you take out those teams, 17-14 against the top 25, and some of those teams are like Oregon, USC, etc. If you tell me we're sitting a decade from here and it's like, well, against top 25, we're like at a 600 win percentage. Like, wait a second, like 15-10. I think we would all burst through and say, yes, please give us that. Please give us that. Because he's shown when he is the better team, he's going to win most of those games. So I think we officially lost Mike. I will get his.
The internet is apparently.
He got some family internet.
Yeah, Tally, you curse Mike with the Alabama internet.
Good. I tossed it to him. He can have it.
All right. Well, David, we got one more thing we want to hit with you. I don't want to hear your exact record. Don't hear that. Y'all will probably do that on Tech Sideline sometime between now and the first game, which we'll probably all listen to just to hear your opinion. But I want to know this. Vegas has us 6.5. Are you taking the over? Are you taking the under on wins of 6.5?
I'll take the over. I think you look at the schedule, man, it's really tough. Like, you got to play at SMU, at Miami, at Clemson. On top of, late in the year, it's in Lane, but you got to play UVA. UVA is coming off a pretty good year. Cal and Georgia Tech are both pretty sneaky teams. Pitt is this is not an easy schedule. But I think the talent level is improved, and I think the pieces are there. It's imperative they get off to a good start, but I think you'll see a team hit the over on that mark. I will say this, though. James Franklin has never coached a bowl ineligible team. Like, all of James Franklin's teams have made a bowl game, bare minimum. I would expect to make a bowl game this year. The difficult part is, I know there are people that are like 8, 9, 10 wins. What is the ceiling? I think it really depends on, we talked about a lot of these questions.
Yep.
Wide receiver, safety, right? You got to have guys step up. There's a lot of talent in this program. Guys look much bigger. You can tell just by being around practice. They look faster. Like, the strength and conditioning program has paid off. There's more talent in the program, but you've got to figure out – that's got to lead to, like, on-field success. You got to figure out which guys can turn that into, big plays on the field. And does it come together in multiple wins? Does it come together in 6 or 8 or 10? Like, and it might be difficult to really go as far as a lot of people would like, because the schedule is very difficult. But you look down that roster, a lot of these guys are young. We're talking sophomores, juniors, even freshmen, guys with multiple years of eligibility left. You've got a team for the future, and you continue to take steps forward, continue to give fans hope. And I think at this point next year, we're talking about a team that we go, all right, these guys can probably make a little bit of a run here in the ACC. Like, it's not out of the question, but this team's probably a year away from doing that right now, just because of all the factors.
That's a great point. So David goes over 6.5. The real reason Mike left y'all? Mike claimed his internet's out, and we'll get on his bet. Remember a couple years ago, he claimed we were not going to make a bowl. Tally jumped on him. Remember that? You jumped all over. Mike just got out because he did not want to make this prediction. He saw the rundown. I'm not doing this year. Man, my internet just went out. Mike, I'm giving you grief. I love you, man. But it's a good point. Like, the youth of this team, man, we don't have 53 seniors on this team that will not be playing next year.
This is a team built as much for 27 and 28 as it is built for 26.
And it's built for 26 because the floor has been raised. And with that being said, that is going to wrap up this episode of the Boundary Corner podcast, brought to you by Moments on the Maury in Lexington, along with our special guest tonight from Tech Sideline, David Cunningham, and from Hokie Hangover, Mike McDaniels. I'm Curtis Wilson.
I'm Brian Siegler.
Jonathan Talley.
And I'm Sean Moss.
Check out BoundaryCornerBT.com to listen to all of our episodes. Also, check out the merchandise shop while we're there. We got it. Mike just messaged me. He is taking the over of 6.5.
Okay.
Okay, I just got that.
Tally can breathe a sigh of relief, man.
Hey, if he would have said under, I wouldn't even been tripping this time.
I would have had to stop.
If he would have said 6 wins, I'd have been like, okay, I understand.
What are you guys? Are you guys taking the over? What are you guys taking?
No.
No.
Not doing it yet.
Okay.
I'll
have to listen to find out.
We'll tell you off screen.
We'll tell you off screen, but it will come in a later date and time. Check out the merchandise shop while you're there. Follow us everywhere you can: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Obviously, subscribe to our YouTube channel, where there are a bunch of y'all watching us there tonight. We appreciate y'all there as well on Twitter. We are on every podcast, so check those out as well. As always, we got our buddy Jason Long. He plays us in, plays us out. Check him at jasonlongmusic.com, where you can do all of his music, Apple, Spotify, his YouTube and Facebook pages, and where he is playing live around the Roanoke area. We appreciate y'all for listening. Appreciate all y'all in the chat tonight. That was a lot of fun. And as always, let's go.
Hokies.